Dear students, let us start the discussion on 21st January 2016 newspaper. The first article is related to Mr. G. Sampantha. It is about the tax evasion and tax avoidance which is going on in India and how the lack of public resources is inhibiting the public investment on health and education, which is finally hurting the majority of the population in the country. Most of the MNCs, they are using innovative accounting practices to avoid the taxes in the country. Similarly, Indian companies are also taking up a similar route and also they are involved in the tax avoidance. And certain other tax evasive elements, they are taking up the Hawala route to transfer the Indian funds offshore. So it means that we have a system where the profits of India are being transferred into some other country which is preferably a tax haven, and the tax payments are avoided. So in this context, the same money is coming back to India as an investment, and the same investment is asking for the extra benefits in the Indian market, such as free electricity, free water, free land. All these benefits are being availed on the Indian soil. And again, the profits which are made, they are being recycled to the tax havens and they are being coming up back to India. This process is called as round tripping. In this, there are various mechanisms. One is Hawala. So Hawala means illegitimate transfer of the money across the boundaries. And transfer pricing, it means that the cost of the different goods that are transferred between the parent company and subsidiary company is made in such a way that the parent company which is lying in the tax haven profits much higher than originally profited. The subsidiary exists. So the transactions between subsidiary and parent company and the price differences, we call that as transfer pricing. So tax haven, why? The thing is, many of the countries, they want the pull up of the capital in their nation, such as Luxembourg, Mauritius, etc. So they offer for incentives for the foreign capital. And the second, they also offer the secrecy so that if any tax evasion has happened at the source, will not be revealed by these countries. And India has something called double taxation avoidance agreement with many of these tax havens such as Mauritius. It means a profit, if it is paid as a capital in Mauritius, it need not be paid as a tax or it need not get taxed in India. It means if capital gains tax is imposed in Mauritius, the same capital will not be imposed as imposed a tax in India. So it means Mauritius do not have the tax. The people prefer to pay the taxes in Mauritius rather than in India. So that's why the profit earned in India will be shifted to the Mauritius. So India is unable to break this particular system. So in this context, the P notes, participatory notes, it means the funds which are investing in the Indian stock exchange from these tax havens, so they don't disclose their identity, and the foreign institutional investors, they issue the P notes to the hedge funds. And with our regulator, we don't have any detail about the hedge funds or the individuals who are investing in Indian stock exchanges. And similarly, the general anti-avoidance rules was enacted by the government, but due to the pressure from these particular vested interests, the implementation of this is deterred by 2017. So the general anti-avoidance rules, what they say is, if any particular business agreement is just to make a tax avoidance, then it can be questioned by the tax authorities. So that such a things are brought under the general anti-avoidance rules, and it has been no more active, and by 2017 it is supposed to be implemented. When this GAR, which is meant to question the P notes, etc., has come into existence, and know your customer norms are imposed on the P notes, then immediately there is a crash in the stock exchange, and the politicians of the day, they got the panic and they reversed the changes. And coming to the maternity relief. Now, National Food Security Act, it provides for an entitlement of 6,000 plus rupees to the pregnant mother. So in this case, there is another program which has come into existence that is called Indira Gandhi Matrutva Sahayog Yojana. Under this, an amount of money will be given as a conditional cash transfer rather than as a compulsory entitlement. Here, either you follow the prescribed conditions or not, we get the money. But here, you have to follow a certain set of norms to get the money. So for such as compulsory registration of the pregnancy, antenatal checkups, consumption of iron folic acid tablets, these, if they are being followed regularly, then satisfaction to these conditions, money will be transferred. So it is based on Bolsa Familia in Brazil. So a Bolsa Familia is a highly successful program in Brazil because there is a very strong health infrastructure over there. There the problem is from the demand side, that is from the people side. In India, the problem is not from the people side, but it is from the supply side, that is lack of health infrastructure. So in these circumstances, what will help in India is, it is not a conditional cash transfer, it is the universal entitlement. And the second thing is, the conditional conditions such as consumption of iron folic acid, they happens in the private spaces at home. So how to verify them is a bigger question. So in this context, the documentation etc. by the health worker, it may lead to increased corruption. Because the verification by health worker will lead to the entitlement, then it can provide for propensity to increase the corruption over here. In this case, as already women in India suffer from anemia, malnutrition, and they are much underweight compared to the Africans during pregnancy, in those circumstances, it is better India stay onto its universal entitlement path to provide for the necessary nutrition to women. And added to that, if you take Janani Suraksha Yojana, the government has a misconception that offering of the universal entitlement has led to the increase in fertility rate. But however, it appears more a statistical error or statistical misjudgment than a truth. For 6,000 rupees, no woman likes to have the responsibility of children. So, this particular statistical error can be overlooked. Coming to the National Family Health Survey 4, in India, the malnutrition appears to be decreased, but chronic malnutrition, which is reflected in the form of the stunting of the child, it is still high. Only the wasting, which reflects the acute malnutrition, has decreased in India. And along with this, if you take about the woman, so the adult, whose body mass index is below the average, has also decreased. These are the two positive developments that have occurred. But there is a panic situation, that is, more than 82% of the people in rural India, 70% of the people in urban India, they have no awareness about the HIV and AIDS. So this is a panicking situation. And next is, on the economic front, there is a Sensex free fall. But the article which attracts me more is the Raghuram Rajan's saying at the World Economic Forum. What he said is, the monetary easing has its limitations, and it was used to the maximum extent possible. And further monetary easing, it can lead to an asset bubble. As more flow of the money increases, the asset prices are going to increase without leading to the productivity of the capital. So it means the capital will lead to inflation, excess capital will lead to inflation rather than for production. So it means we have to generate the alternative instruments such as structural reforms in the economy to increase the production and the growth process. So the finance ministry has a greater role than RBI. That's what is the Rajan's article talks about. So how to deal with this slowdown? So we have to increase the flow of the investments, private investments. And also we can use the fiscal space by increasing the quality of expenditure and efficiency. That's what this article talks about. And this article is in essence a question which I gave you yesterday. And the next is the free trade agreement with Australia. You know that any developed country, the free trade agreement talks about is the free flow of the capital into India, removal of the tariffs on various import of the food articles by India, and India asks for the free movement of the skilled manpower into that particular country. These are the bones of contest between India and Australia too. Coming to the next article, that is Iran. So the ambassador to Iran has clearly said that it is the high time India shall use its existence or India shall use the opportunity to exist in Iran, because the Chabahar port and many of these investments are been on hold, and India is more on a cautious approach towards investing in Iran. So in this context, it will be a lost opportunity for India, and India shall see Iran as a stabilizing force and a guarantor of stability in the West Asia. Coming to the SEZ policy and shipyard industry. The shipyard industry gets the infrastructure status. It means that it gets the chance now for the long-term finances from the financial institutions and also income tax benefits. External commercial borrowings will be eased for the shipyard industry. So it means the capital requirements of the shipyard industry can be easily met once it gets an infrastructure status. Next is SEZs. Now, various reforms are being suggested to improve the role of the SEZs and to boost the exports. So in this context, there is a sunset clause. So the finance ministry is going to end all the tax benefits to the SEZs by 2023. So this has to be extended beyond that period. And SEZs which are not initiated by 2017, they will lose their recognition. So the SEZ forums, they also ask for the extension of this date beyond 2017. And SEZs, they are facing competition from the goods which are coming from the countries with which India has a free trade agreement. So an SEZ good or a good produced in the SEZ is treated on par with exports or on par with production with the other countries. So when this SEZ good has to come into our domestic market, an import duty will be levied onto them. So the good produced on the Indian SEZ is costing more than the good which is being imported from a country with which India has a free trade agreement. So these people are demanding for an equal treatment between the two, so that SEZ goods also can have a competitive market on the domestic area. As external demand is decreasing, SEZ production shall find a way in the domestic area, shall serve the domestic demand. These are the arguments. So this is about the newspaper. Thank you very much.